Listen up, because today we're going to try and drag your military IQ out of the gutter, which, God knows, you desperately need. We're going to dismantle that little animated fairy tale some keyboard experts have about how easy it is to track an aircraft carrier using satellites. Not long ago, the cat was let out of the bag when a French officer, in a stroke of absolute genius, decided to go for a jog on the deck of the Charles de Gaulle, with a fitness app running, basically handing his GPS coordinates to the entire world on a silver platter. Since then, every basement-dwelling intel analyst has crawled out of the woodwork claiming it doesn't matter because the Russians and Chinese have eyes in the sky watching every move the US Navy makes 24/7. Look, I've already blocked those morons because social media is already full enough of nonsense. But for those of you who actually want to understand how the real world works, here's a dose of technical reality served with a side of spite. Let's start with the basics. A satellite isn't some drone hovering there like a lost pigeon watching sailors wave at the camera. Most spy satellites operate in low Earth orbit, LEO, which means they're screaming around the planet every 90 minutes at a breakneck pace. They can't just hit the brakes or stay still because they feel like it. While that satellite is completing its orbit, the carrier strike group, which moves at about 30 knots, or 55 kilometers for the liberal arts majors among you, has already shifted far enough so that by the time the satellite comes back around, the carrier is in a completely different zip code. Changing a satellite's orbit is a slow, insanely expensive process that burns fuel more precious than gold. It takes a sailor 5 seconds to turn a helm, but it takes a satellite hours to correct its trajectory. To keep a single carrier under constant surveillance, you'd need a constellation of hundreds of satellites equipped with synthetic aperture radar, SAR, and electronic intelligence, ELINT systems. Claiming you can track an entire fleet with 3 satellites is like saying you can take out a main battle tank with a slingshot if you just aim for the driver's eye. It's pure, unadulterated stupidity. Furthermore, an aircraft carrier isn't just a sitting duck. They have 1,000 ways to play hide-and-seek. They can go into full MCON, emission control, shutting down every single radio and microwave on board. So ELINT satellites can't hear so much as a whisper. They can hide under a massive storm or thick cloud cover to blind optical sensors. Or my personal favorite, maritime noise. If you put a strike group in a high-traffic area like the Strait of Gibraltar or the Persian Gulf, the radar returns go haywire trying to distinguish a military colossus from a rusty tanker full of crude oil. They can even detach a destroyer a few miles away to scream electronic signals like a maniac, acting as bait while the carrier slips away in the shadows. The only thing they can't hide, and this should blow your mind, is the wake. That's immutable. It's the ocean's scar that tells everyone exactly who passed through. So how do you actually hunt these 100,000-ton monsters if satellites are so limited? You use methods that are much dirtier and far more effective. The Soviets weren't idiots. They used trawlers in international waters that followed the carrier at a 10-mile distance. Essentially, a fishing boat bristling with antennas that you can't sink without starting World War III. Then you've got sonar buoys dropped from aircraft that detect the unique acoustic signature of the propellers, which is as distinct as a fingerprint. But if you want the ultimate predator, the alpha of the deep, that's the nuclear attack submarine, SSN. It's the perfect stalker, unlimited range, silent, and capable of shadowing a strike group second by second without them ever knowing. If an SSN has you in its crosshairs, you don't need a grainy satellite photo from an hour ago. You have a real-time firing solution. And finally, let's not forget human intelligence and logistics. If some influencer in uniform uploads a selfie during a port call in Crete or Haifa, They've just done half the work for foreign intelligence. At the end of the day, tracking a carrier in the middle of the ocean is a complex art form that requires a lot more than just staring at the sky and hoping for a technological miracle. So the next time you hear some expert rambling about the omniscience of Chinese or Russian satellites, remind them that reality is a lot more stubborn, and at sea, silence and cunning beat satellites every single time.